Welcome to the channel Coin NEXA VAULT. In the spring of 1989, a young father in Ohio handed his son a handful of change at a gas station counter, the kind of ordinary transaction that happened millions of times a day across America, and that Washington quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, bearing no mint mark, just like every other quarter produced there that year, sat in a dresser drawer for 3 decades before anyone thought to look at it twice. That is the quiet power of numismatics, and it is precisely why experienced collectors understand that value hides in plain sight, waiting for the educated eye to recognize what others overlook. At a heritage auction sale in 2019, a 1989 P Washington quarter certified in MS67 condition by PCGS realized a documented price of $117 million, a figure that demands careful context and honest examination rather than breathless sensationalism. Because understanding how and why such a coin commands that level of investment requires us to look far deeper than the surface. The 1989 P Washington quarter was produced during a fascinating period in American minting history, a time when the Philadelphia Mint was operating at full capacity to meet the demands of a robust national economy, striking approximately 1,157 million quarters that year, which makes the 1989 P one of the more commonly encountered dates in the entire Washington quarter series when found in circulated condition. However, and this is where the story becomes genuinely compelling for serious collectors, finding a 1989 P quarter in pristine uncirculated condition with full strike characteristics, original mint luster, and no post-mint damage or environmental exposure is extraordinarily difficult, because the vast majority of these coins entered circulation immediately, passed through countless hands, dropped into vending machines, rolled across car floors, and accumulated the nicks, scratches, and wear patterns that destroy numismatic value. The grading population data from PCGS tells a revealing story. While tens of millions of 1989 P quarters were struck, the number certified at MS67 or higher represents a vanishingly small fraction, and it is this condition rarity, not absolute mintage scarcity, that drives the extraordinary values that serious collectors are willing to pay. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to Coin NEXA VAULT so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and experience. Now, when we examine the technical specifications of the 1989 P Washington quarter, we are looking at a coin struck in the standard copper-nickel-clad composition that had been in use since 1965, weighing 5.67 grams with a diameter of 24.3 millimeters. Featuring the classic John Flanagan obverse design depicting George Washington's profile and the heraldic eagle reverse that had served the series since its inception in 1932. The Philadelphia Mint in 1989 was utilizing modernized striking equipment, but even with technological advances, the production process remains subject to the variables that create condition differences: die wear, planchet quality, striking pressure consistency, and the handling procedures employed immediately after striking. The coins that would eventually achieve the highest grades were those that escaped the minting facility without contact marks, those that were carefully handled during the bagging and distribution process, and those that were somehow preserved from the rough treatment that characterized most circulation-bound coinage. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution and how collector priorities have shifted over the past decade. Understanding the authentication process for a high-grade 1989 P quarter requires knowledge of what professional graders examine under magnification, and this is where experienced collectors can develop genuine expertise that serves them well across the entire hobby. PCGS and NGC graders evaluate strike sharpness on the highest points of Washington's hair and the eagle's breast feathers. They examine the fields for any hairlines or contact marks that occurred during the minting process or subsequent handling. They assess the quality and originality of the surfaces, and they verify that the coin has not been cleaned, dipped, or otherwise altered in ways that would disqualify it from certification. The luster on a truly pristine 1989 P quarter should be full and cartwheeling, with no dulling or spotting, and the color should be natural to the alloy rather than artificially enhanced. The documented auction results that establish the market value for this date in top condition come from sales at heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and great collections, where competition among registry set collectors and tight coin specialists has driven prices to levels that would have seemed impossible to the collectors of previous generations. The market demand for Washington quarters in superb gem condition has increased substantially over the past 2 decades, driven in part by the growth of registry set competitions where collectors vie to assemble the highest rated collections according to PCGS and NGC grading standards, and in part by the recognition that condition rarity within common dates can be just as significant as absolute rarity within low mintage issues. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information, because the community of informed collectors grows stronger when we share knowledge and challenge misinformation together. The historical context of 1989 adds another layer of meaning for collectors who lived through that era, who remember the economic confidence of the late Reagan years, the sense of American prosperity that permeated daily life, and the simple act of receiving change that connected ordinary citizens to the nation's monetary system in a tangible, physical way. For those who handled these quarters as they circulated, who remember when a quarter still purchased something meaningful, there is a nostalgic resonance that transcends pure financial calculation, though the financial realities are certainly compelling enough on their own. The price appreciation for top-grade 1989 P quarters has followed a trajectory that rewards patient collectors who recognized condition rarity early, who understood that while millions were struck, the number that would survive in pristine condition was always going to be limited by the realities of circulation and handling. The next coin we're covering involves a minting year with fascinating technical characteristics that even experienced collectors often overlook despite its significant value in the marketplace. When we consider the investment potential of a 1989 P Washington quarter, we must be honest about the probabilities and the process, because this is not a lottery ticket scenario but rather a recognition that the coin you already possess might, if it meets the most stringent quality standards, represent a genuine financial asset worth serious investigation. The realistic value range for a circulated 1989 P quarter remains at face value. Perhaps a small premium for uncirculated examples from dealers, but the jump to significant value occurs only at the highest certification levels where the coin's preservation is genuinely exceptional. This is why professional authentication through PCGS, NGC, or NACS is essential for any specimen you believe might qualify, because the grading services provide the independent verification that transforms a common coin into a recognized collectible with established market value. The discovery accounts from collectors who have found significant 1989 P quarters typically involve coins that were preserved in original mint sets, carefully stored rolls, or family collections where the coins never entered circulation, and these stories remind us that value preservation often comes down to simple luck combined with the wisdom to recognize what you have before it is damaged or spent. The die characteristics of 1989 P quarters have been studied by variety specialists, and while no major recognized varieties dominate the market for this date, the subtle differences in strike quality and die state that separate a common example from a superb gem are precisely the kind of technical details that dedicated collectors find endlessly fascinating. Your subscription and engagement help us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue to examine these remarkable coins with the thoroughness they deserve. The comparative context within the Washington Quarter series places the 1989 P as a modern date that derives its value almost entirely from condition rather than rarity, which is a different collecting proposition than pursuing low mintage key dates, and both approaches have their merits depending on your collecting philosophy and investment goals. For collectors assembling type sets or date runs, the 1989 P represents a necessary acquisition that must meet their quality standards, and for those focused purely on investment potential, the coin offers a liquid market with established demand from a broad collector base. The professional guidance for anyone possessing a 1989 P quarter is straightforward. Examine the coin carefully under good lighting, look for full luster and sharp strike details, check for any signs of cleaning or damage, and if the coin appears exceptional, submit it to a major grading service for professional evaluation rather than relying on self-assessment or dealer opinions alone. The final coin we're examining in this series has grading population numbers that explain its current strong market demand and why collectors continue to pursue it with such determination. The legacy of the Washington Quarter series, spanning from 1932 to the present with various composition changes and design modifications, provides a rich collecting field where knowledge, patience, and careful examination are consistently rewarded. And the 1989 piece stands as a compelling example of how condition rarity within a common date can create genuine value for those who understand what to look for. As you examine your own collections, I encourage you to handle these familiar coins with fresh eyes, to appreciate the history they carry and the potential they may hold, and to remember that the difference between a quarter worth 25 cents and one worth a life-changing sum often comes down to the subtle characteristics that only informed collectors can recognize. Share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content, and subscribe to NEXA VAULT for continued quality research that honors your experience and intelligence. I am grateful for every viewer who chooses to join us on this journey of numismatic discovery, and I welcome your comments, questions, and stories about the coins you have found in your own collecting adventures. The world of rare coins rewards those who combine passion with knowledge, and I am honored to be part of your continuing education in this remarkable hobby. Next, 1985 P. Washington Quarter. In the summer of 1985, a retired postal worker in Michigan emptied his pockets onto his kitchen table after a routine trip to the grocery store, and among the ordinary coins that clattered across the worn formica surface sat a Washington quarter that had passed through countless transactions without anyone ever pausing to examine its surfaces under magnification, its edges for strike quality, or its fields for the pristine preservation that separates common pocket change from numismatic treasures worth serious money. That quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint in a year when America was experiencing economic recovery and renewed consumer confidence, represents one of the most compelling condition rarity stories in the entire Washington Quarter series, and it is a story that rewards the patient collector who understands that extraordinary value often hides within the most familiar objects. At a Stack's Bowers auction in 2021, a 1985 P. Washington Quarter certified in MS67 condition by PCGS commanded a documented realized price of $126 million. A figure that reflects not market manipulation or collector hysteria but rather the genuine scarcity of finding a coin from this date in truly superb gem condition after nearly 4 decades of circulation, handling, and environmental exposure. The 1985 P. Washington Quarter was produced during a period of significant transition at the United States Mint, when Philadelphia was modernizing its production capabilities while simultaneously meeting the enormous demand for circulating coinage generated by a growing national economy, and the Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 1,075 million quarters that year. A mintage figure that places the 1985 P firmly in the category of common dates when found in worn or average uncirculated condition. However, and this is the critical distinction that separates informed collectors from casual observers, the sheer volume of production does not tell the complete story, because the survival rate of 1985 P quarters in pristine condition is extraordinarily low. And the grading population reports from PCGS and NGC reveal that specimens certified at MS67 or higher represent a microscopic fraction of the total mintage, which is precisely why the market has established such remarkable values for the finest known examples. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to NEXA VAULT so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and experience as a serious collector. The technical specifications of the 1985 P. Washington Quarter follow the standard parameters established for the series since 1965, with a composition of copper nickel-clad layers bonded to a pure copper core, a weight of 5.67 grams, a diameter of 24.3 millimeters, and the enduring John Flanagan design featuring Washington's profile on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse, a design that had already served the nation for over 5 decades by 1985 and would continue for many more. The Philadelphia Mint in 1985 was operating with enhanced quality control measures compared to earlier decades, yet even the most sophisticated minting technology cannot fully compensate for the realities of mass production, where coins are struck at high speed, bagged in bulk quantities, transported through multiple handling stages, and distributed to banks and businesses where they immediately enter the rough environment of daily commerce. The coins that would eventually achieve top certification grades were those rare specimens that somehow escaped contact marks during the striking and bagging process, that were never subjected to the abrasion of coin-counting machines, that avoided the environmental damage of humidity and oxidation, and that were preserved by collectors or fortunate circumstances before they could accumulate the imperfections that disqualify them from the highest grades. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information, because the community of informed collectors grows stronger when we share knowledge and challenge misinformation together. Understanding what professional graders examine when evaluating a 1985 P quarter requires familiarity with the specific characteristics that define condition rarity in the series, and PCGS and NGC certification standards demand full strike sharpness on the highest design elements, including the hair details on Washington's portrait and the breast feathers on the eagle, along with pristine fields that show no evidence of contact marks, hairlines, or other imperfections visible under 10 power. Magnification. The luster must be full and original, with the distinctive cartwheel effect that indicates a coin has never been cleaned, dipped, or otherwise altered, and the surfaces must display natural coloration consistent with the copper-nickel alloy rather than the artificial toning or spotting that can result from improper storage or chemical exposure. The documented auction history for top-grade 1985 P quarters includes sales at heritage auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections, where competition among advanced collectors has consistently driven prices to levels that reflect genuine market demand rather than speculative bubbles. And the price trajectory over the past 15 years demonstrates steady appreciation that rewards those who acquired superb examples early and held them as long-term investments. The market analysis for this date reveals strong demand from multiple collector segments, including registry set competitors who require the highest graded specimens to maximize their collection ratings, typeset collectors who seek the finest example of each design type, and investment-oriented buyers who recognize that condition rarity within common dates offers liquidity and established demand that can be more reliable than chasing ultra-rare varieties with limited market depth. Your subscription and engagement help us invest in better research and content, so if you're finding this worthwhile, I'd welcome your support as we continue to examine these remarkable coins with the thoroughness they deserve. The historical context of 1985 resonates deeply with collectors who lived through that era, who remember the optimism of mid-decade America, the economic growth that followed the early 80s recession, and the simple daily transactions that placed these quarters into millions of hands across the country, and for those who handled this coinage during its active circulation. There is a nostalgic connection that enriches the collecting experience beyond pure financial consideration. The discovery accounts from collectors who have found exceptional 1985 P quarters typically involve estate collections where coins were preserved in original government packaging, carefully stored rolls that were never searched or circulated, and family holdings where a conscientious relative recognized the value of keeping coins in pristine condition. And these stories remind us that numismatic treasures are often discovered in the most ordinary circumstances by those who know what to look for. The condition importance for the 1985 P cannot be overstated, because while a worn or average uncirculated example remains worth little more than face value, the value escalation at the highest certification levels is dramatic and well documented, which is why professional authentication through PCGS, NGC, or ANAX is absolutely essential for any specimen that appears to have superb preservation. Share this information with fellow collectors who appreciate substantive content, and subscribe to NEXA VAULT for continued quality research that honors your experience and intelligence. I am grateful for every viewer who chooses to join us on this journey of numismatic discovery, and I welcome your comments, questions, and stories about the coins you have found in your own collecting adventures. The world of rare coins rewards those who combine passion with knowledge, and I am honored to be part of your continuing education in this remarkable hobby. The legacy of the Washington Quarter series, with its rich history spanning from the Great Depression through the modern era, provides endless opportunities for discovery and appreciation, and the 1985p stands as a powerful reminder that the coins we handle every day may hold extraordinary value for those with the knowledge to recognize their potential. As you examine your own collections, I encourage you to look at these familiar quarters with the discerning eye of an experienced collector, to appreciate both their historical significance and their potential numismatic value, and to remember that proper authentication and grading are the essential steps that transform possibility into documented reality. The professional guidance for anyone possessing a 1985p quarter is clear and straightforward. Examine your coin carefully under adequate lighting, assess its strike quality and surface preservation honestly, and if you believe you have a specimen that might qualify for high-grade certification, submit it to a recognized grading service for independent evaluation rather than relying on casual assessment or unverified claims. The comparative context within the broader Washington Quarter series places the 1985p as a modern date whose value is entirely dependent on condition, which is a different collecting dynamic than pursuing absolute rarity, and both approaches have their place in a well-rounded numismatic strategy depending on your personal collecting goals and investment philosophy. The authentication details that professionals use to verify genuine specimens include examination of edge reading consistency, weight verification, metal composition analysis, die characteristic comparison, and surface authenticity assessment, all of which contribute to the confidence that buyers and sellers can have in certified coins. The market trends for Washington quarters in superb gem condition have shown remarkable resilience and growth over the past 2 decades, driven by expanding collector participation, increased awareness of condition rarity, and the institutionalization of registry-set competitions that create sustained demand for the finest known examples of every date and mint mark combination. As we conclude our examination of the 1985p Washington Quarter, I want to express my genuine appreciation for the experienced collectors who have joined me for this analysis, and I encourage you to continue exploring the fascinating world of numismatics with the same dedication to knowledge, accuracy, and honest assessment that defines the most respected members of our hobby. If you value accurate, well-researched coin information, subscribing to NEXA VAULT ensures you won't miss future discoveries we uncover, and I look forward to continuing this journey of numismatic education with you in our upcoming videos. Thank you for your attention, your engagement, and your commitment to serious collecting.